Mataji. Suranam Udadim. Dadre Kamata Rupena Brishta Ekadashe Vibhu Sura, the theists, Asuranam, of the atheists, Udadim, in the ocean, Matatam, churning, Mandarachalam, the Mandarachala hill, Dadre, sustained, Kamata, tortoise, Rupena, in the form of, Prishte, shell, Ekadashe, the 11th in the line, Vibhu, the great. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The 11th incarnation of the Lord took the form of a tortoise, whose shell served as a pivot for the Mandarachala hill, which was being used as a churning rod by the theists and atheists of the universe. Purport: once both the atheists and the theists were engaged in producing nectar from the sea, so that all of them could become deathless by drinking it. At that time, the Mandarachala hill was used as a churning rod and the shell of the Lord tortoise. The incarnation of Godhead became the resting place, pivot of the hill and the seawater. So why did the tortoise Matsya, Kurma, why did Kurma put the Mandacharala hill on his back? What is it? Yeah, he had an itch, and so the demigods and the demons were pulling the hill back and forth. I think it's 100,000 yojanas, which is approximately 800,000 miles, made out of gold. So it gave Lord Tortoise a good scratching. Could you imagine putting a mountain of gold 800,000 miles high on your back? It wouldn't work. But for Lord Tortoise, it was quite pleasant. In the 12th incarnation, the Lord appeared as Dhanvantari, and in the 13th, he lured the atheists by charming the beauty of a woman, gave nectar to the demigods to drink. So this is just more or less a summary. Shukadeva goes, the sages had asked Sutta Goswami to tell us about the incarnations of the Lord, so now he's just summarizing them. Later on, in the 8th canto, we'll have a more depth explanation of Mohini Murti. And Dhanvantari will appear a little bit, I guess, in the 6th chapter, 6th canto, when it describes about the churning of the ocean of milk. In the 14th incarnation, the Lord appears in Nrsimha and bifurcated the strong body of the atheist Hiranyakashipu with his nails, just as a carpenter pierces cane. So that's the 7th canto. Text 19. In the 15th incarnation, the Lord assumed the form of a dwarf Brahman and visited the arena of sacrifice arranged by Maharaj Bali. Although at heart he was willing to regain the kingdom of the 3 planetary systems, he simply asked for a donation of 3 steps of land. Purport. The Almighty God can bestow upon anyone the kingdom of the universe from a very small beginning, and similarly He can take away the kingdom of the universe on the plea of begging a small piece of land. So which canto is that? Yes, 8th canto. In the 16th incarnation, the Lord, as Brigapati, annihilated the administrative class, Kshatriyas, 21 times, being angry with them because of their rebellion against the Brahmanas, the intelligent class. Which canto is that? 9th canto, yes. The Kshatriyas of the administrative class of men are expected to rule the planet by the direction of the intelligent class of men, who give directions to the rulers in terms of standard shastras or the books of revealed knowledge. The rulers carry on the administration according to that direction. Whenever there is disobedience on the part of the Kshatriyas or the administrative class against the orders of the learned and intelligent Brahmanas, the administrator is removed by force from the post and arrangement is made for better administration. Of course, this removal was a little extreme. Imagine if you became a temple president and Brigapati appeared. We find all the temple heads of the temple presidents rolling all over. Wouldn't be a very popular post to fill. So, here it mentions that the intelligent class of men, they give direction from the Shastra. After all, any one of us, what is our actual, how much intelligence can we actually have? But if those who are actually intelligent, they learn the Shastra. And therefore they can properly direct. Trividar, those who are, the difference between the demons and the devotees is that the devotees, they know what the Shastra is and they follow it. Especially the conclusion. Although the atheists, they also may follow the Shastra, but they don't know its conclusion. Therefore Krishna says, Tanaham dvishita kuran samsaration naradamam Shi pramayajas from ashubam asri shveva yonishu. Tanaham apani yoni Tanaham dvishita kuran samsaration naradamam Shi pramayajas from ashubam asri shveva yonishu. Asrim Asrim yoni apanam Buddha janmini mama prapya vikondya tato mam yadamam gatim. Tanaham dvishita. Dvishita means envious. Kuran means cruel. So the symptoms of the demons that they're envious and cruel. Now, Ravana and his kingdom, they had Brahmins, they were following the Vedas. Usually they only ate Brahmins on Fridays, so they... They had some regulation when they ate Brahmins. They didn't eat them every day of the week. But they were considered to be cruel. Although they performed sacrifice, and therefore his kingdom was made out of gold, they got some material reciprocation, but they weren't very strict in their rules and regulations. At least they didn't follow the rules and regulations for those in the mode of goodness, and therefore, as Krishna says after that, that Trividha narakasya dwaram nashitam atmanaha kama krodha tata lobhas tasmat etam trayam chajet. That there are 3 gates leading to hell: lust, anger, and greed. Every sane person should try to get free from these 3 modes, because they lead to the degradation of the self. In other words, the idea of following Shastra, some kind of Shastra, because there are 18 Puranas, for instance. 6 Puranas for those in the mode of ignorance, 3 Puranas for those in the mode of passion, and 3 Puranas for those in the mode of goodness. So the idea is that not everyone is going to be in goodness, but if we follow the rules and regulations of Shastra, gradually we can give up lust, anger, and greed. Etanya pistu karmani, that's not right. Ooh. These flowers are really deadly. This flower is merged into the Bhagavad Gita. And it's painted the Bhagavad Gita. And now this is an example of something merging into Krishna. It doesn't want to, it's stuck there. Eter vimukta kontiya tamo dvara srivirnara atrat yat manashayastato yati param gatim. That a man who follows, eter vimukta kontiya, that one who gets free from these 3 gates of hell, he performs acts which are conducive to self-realization, thus he gradually attains the supreme perfection. In other words, not everyone who follows the Shastra is going to be completely pure, but one will become pure. One will come to the perfection gradually. And yakshastra vidim utsrija vartate kamakarata dasasidim avapnoti nasukam naparam gatim. That one who gives up Shastra and acts whimsically, and here whimsically is, the word is kama karata. Prabhupada translates that, says kama means lust, karata, one who follows lust. He doesn't get 3 things. He doesn't get peace or happiness or the supreme destination. So if anyone's looking for peace, it's not a good idea to act whimsically, going to lust, anger, and greed. Now these things may arise, but we shouldn't further aggravate them. Yakshasra vidim usrija vartate kama karata sasudim navapnoti nasukam naparam gatim. Nasukam, happiness, nor the supreme destination. Yakshasra vidim utsrija vartate kama karata sasudim, perfection. One will not get perfection, nor happiness, nor the supreme destination. Therefore, tasmat shastram pramanam te karya vyastito gyatva shastram vidanokta karma kartum viharasi. So one should know what is duty and what is not duty by the directions of Shastra. Knowing such regulations, one should act so that one can gradually become purified. So Srimad Bhagavatam is principally about how great personalities applied the knowledge of Krishna consciousness in their relation with Krishna, so how they became perfect. It's not just about a bunch of rules and regulations, it's about how they were applied by great personalities, Krishna consciousness, so they were in the perfectional stage of Krishna consciousness. Therefore Shastra Krishna says, Evam Evam iti guyatma shastram etan budva buddhimat sat krita kritas shabharata. guess that's the 16th chant. No, 15th. Yomam evam asamudo janati purushottama sasarvavit bhajante mam sarvabhavena bharata. That one who knows me, Yomam evam asamudo, one who knows me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead without any doubting, is said to be the knower of everything. And therefore he engages himself in full devotional service. Oh, there's no doubt. Yomam evam asamudo janati purushottama sasarvavit bhajante mam sarvabhavena bharvata. He worships me with all his heart. Iti guyatama shastram idam yuktva mayanaga etam bhutva buddhimatsya krita kritastra bharata. That this is the most confidential part of all the Vedic knowledge, that anyone who knows this becomes wise, and his endeavors will know perfection. So perfection is to be fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness, fully aware of Krishna. After all, Krishna, he's the source of everything, so he is everything. So he's also the source of all love. He's also the source of all opulence, all bliss. He's the source of everything. So one who becomes aware of him, there's nothing better than that. And therefore all the Shastras are all meant to help one become aware of Krishna. Therefore Krishna in Bhagavad Gita says that he glorifies knowledge. Yanena tutaraginam nash iti, let's see. Api chad asipapebhya sarvebhya papakritamaha sarvam jnana planevaiva vrijanam santarishasi. That in this world there's nothing that so sublime. In this world, let's see, that this one who's absorbed in this, one who's absorbed in the boat of transcendental knowledge can easily cross beyond the ocean of material miseries. And then he says, Yataidam so samrido ganira bhasmat sakru terjana kanagni sarvakarmani bhasmat sakru tejana. That as the blazing fire turns firewood to ashes, so does the fire of knowledge burn to ashes all the reactions of our past activities. Iti jnanam. I'm going to walk out of here with at least some clothes on. Nihidhyana sadrisham pavitram iha vidite tatsvayam yogasam sira kalainatmani vidite. That in this world there's nothing so sublime and pure as transcendental knowledge. One who becomes such knowledge is a mature fruit of all mysticism, and one who's become accomplished in the practice of devotional service enjoys this knowledge within himself in the due course of time. Shravan labate jnanam tatpara samatendriya jnanam lava param shantim acharena digachati. That a faithful person who is absorbed in transcendental knowledge and subdues his senses quickly attains the supreme transcendental peace. And then Krishna says, Agyas chasradanascha samshayatma vinashiti nanyam loksina paro nasukam samshayatmanaha. But ignorant and faithless persons who doubt the revealed scriptures go to ruin and perish. For the doubting soul, there's happiness neither in this world or the next. So the question is, why do people have doubts? Why do we have doubts about Krishna? Anyone have any doubts about Krishna? When's the last time you shook Krishna's hand? It's been a while. So why do we have doubts? Because of lust, anger, and greed. Krishna says they cover our consciousness, and therefore we don't see things properly. So we don't see things properly. Just like if you walk into a dark room, you can't see anything in the dark room. You may doubt what's in the dark room. So because we're in darkness, being covered by the modes of material nature, passion, ignorance, and even goodness, therefore we have some doubts about Krishna. And there Prabhupada said that those who know nothing about Shastra, in other words, we can see Krishna, we can understand Krishna now through Shastra. Shastra can give us some illumination. For instance, we can understand that the sun rises in the morning, supposedly rising in the morning to our vision, because Krishna has put the sun in its orbit. So that's seeing through Shastra. We don't see Krishna moving the sun directly or even indirectly, but we understand it's coming up in its orbit exactly in time because there's a person behind it. And whoever you may call that person, he's moving it. There's a Supreme Person moving the sun and all the planets in the universe. So that's called Jnana Chakshus, seeing through the eyes of knowledge, or Shastra Chakshus. We're seeing through the eyes of the scripture. Whereas Prabhupada said that by pratyaksha, by our own eyes, we look in the sky and we see the sun is just a little ball. By anaman, we may infer that actually it may be bigger. But through Shastra Chakshus, through Shabda, we can understand more about the sun, that there's a sun god, and that he's in a chariot, he's moving the sun around the universe. So we see beyond just what our eyes see, and we see beyond what we infer, we see more detail through the Shastra. But those who have no knowledge of Shastra are just like animals. If you have no knowledge of Shastra, you don't know anything, practically speaking. You may be technologically very advanced. You may know everything about how to build a spaceship, but it doesn't really help you very much. Whether you die in a spaceship or you die downtown Ljubljana, you're dead. And where you're going will depend upon your consciousness, but if you have no spiritual consciousness, you can only have material consciousness, and therefore you'll take some form of life in your next lifetime. Those who have no knowledge are like animals. Those who have knowledge but of the scriptures, but don't really believe in the scripture, they may quote it, but they don't believe in it, they're a little bit better. Those who have knowledge of the scripture, but they don't follow it, those who have knowledge of the scripture and they follow it, but they don't believe in Krishna Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they don't know the conclusion of the Shastra, that all of them are considered to be faithless to one degree or another, but they're not equally faithless. But those who know nothing about Shastra and don't follow it at all, obviously they won't follow it, they're considered to be the worst position. So that's one reason why we distribute books, give people at least a chance to know something about Krishna. Otherwise, they're completely in darkness, and all they have left is to gratify their senses. So the intelligent class of men, they point out Shastra, they don't claim that this is their knowledge. They're able to see whatever they're able to see, even if it's perfectly, is because for the most part, unless they were an avatar, an incarnation, they learn to see through following Shastra. And therefore they give people direction so that they can follow Shastra and they can learn to see things properly also. Sarva bhutastam atmanam sarva bhutani chatmani ikshite yoga yuktatma sarvatra samadarshanaha. The true yogi observes me in all beings and sees every being in me, Indeed, the self-realized soul sees me, the same Supreme Lord, everywhere. And for one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost to him, nor is he ever lost to me. Samam sarveshu bhuteshu tishtantam parameshwaram vinasyavam vinashantam yakpashyati sapashyati samam sarvat samam pashyanhi sarvatra samavastidhim ishwaram nehenasyatmanatmanam tatoyati param gatim samam pashyan samam sarveshu bhuteshu tishtantam parameshwaram. I'm quoting the same verse again. Samam pashyanhi sarvatra samavastitam ishwaram. Samam sarveshu bhuteshu tishtantam parameshwaram vinasyava vinashantam yakpashyati sabashyati samam Pashyanhi sarvatra samavastitam ishwaram nehenasyatmanatmanam tatoyati param gatim. One who sees the super soul accompanying all souls in all the bodies, and knows that neither the soul nor the super soul within the destructible body is ever destroyed, he actually sees. One who sees the super soul equal everywhere does not degrade himself by his mind unless he gradually approaches the supreme destination. So this is seeing through the eyes of Shastra. And the result of that is that those who have intelligence, they try to apply what they've seen. It changes the mood. It should change the mood at least. And some impersonal understanding is all going on by accident. I'm being unfairly treated. I'm a victim, whatever. To actually everything is under Krishna's control and everything is meant for my spiritual advancement. If I see it properly, I can react to what's happening, so actually I make spiritual advancement. And if I don't see things properly, if I have a misunderstanding, I'll probably react in such a way as to entangle me further in material existence. Therefore, intelligent class of men, when they saw that the Shastriyas aren't acting properly, then they annihilated them. Of course, and 21 times. In other words, after they annihilated one generation, the next grew up and they didn't act properly either, so they annihilated them. So, till finally, I guess Brigu got tired of annihilating the Kshatriyas, and here we are now. Wondering when he's going to come back. In any case, the Kshatriyas are supposed to follow the intelligent class of men. Otherwise, you can't have a civilization. Godless civilization where people are just acting like animals, acting out of their false ego, just watching the material, just thinking the aim of life is sense gratification, can actually act as human beings. You can't expect tigers to suddenly become civilized. Wash their hands after they eat, become vegetarians, treat the other animals in the forest with some respect. You can't really expect that. They may become tame for some time, but they're always dangerous. They have no deeper knowledge. They usually tame them out of fear. But if the tiger gets angry enough, he'll forget his fear, and you may get in trouble, even the lion or the tiger tamer. Therefore, Chanaka Pandit says, don't trust a politician or a woman. Not that he had anything against women. He just believed that if you're emotional, anyone, a woman or a man or anyone or a politician, then you can't trust them. They'll follow their emotions rather than intelligence. Their mind will take away their intelligence. And therefore, although Kamsa gave Vasudeva back the child, Vasudeva knew that you couldn't trust Kamsa because if he got some feelings when Narada Muni came and told him any one of the sons could come and kill you, he became afraid, and therefore he took back the son and killed it. Because he wasn't acting on, as Vasudeva had told him, that you're eternal, why should you be so much concerned with this temporary body, that you're willing to do sinful activities, even kill your own sister on her marriage day. But Kamsa wouldn't listen to even that. But when Vasudeva agreed to give him the children, Kamsa thought, well, all right, Vasudeva will always keep his word, so he gave him the child. But Kamsa said, well, this child was not going to, it's not a threat because it's the first son, and the ninth one is going to kill me. So he gave Vasudeva back the child. But as soon as Narada Muni bewildered his mind, saying that any one of these children could be the ninth one, depending how you count, then he became very disturbed, and then he wanted to kill the children, any one of them, because he believed any one of them could be Vishnu. And therefore he followed his emotions. So we have to learn Shastra so that we don't follow our emotions. We use our intelligence and serve Krishna. Then we can go to the supreme perfection. Krodha kama vimuktanam yatinam shaknoti vaiva yakshodu praksharira vimokshanat kama krodha tata lobas tasmadev tam trayam jagat. Shaknoti vaiva yakshodu praksharira vimokshanat. That one who's shaknoti vaiva yakshodum praksharira vimokshanat kama krodha one who is able to tolerate the urges of the senses and check the force of desire and anger, he is a yogi and he's happy in this world. So instead of acting according to Shaknoti haiva yakshodum prakshari vimokshana kama krodha tata lovas tasma etam trayam chagyat. That's not right. Shaknoti haiva yakshodum prakshari vimokshanam Kama krodha vimuktanam yatinam yatichetasam. Verses mixed up there. This is chapter 5. Shaknoti haiva yakshodum prakshari vimokshana kama krodha tata. Shaknoti haiva yakshodum kama krodha bhavan vegam siyukta sasukinara. So if we check the force of desire and anger, one who's able to tolerate them, and then the urge of the senses, and then check the force of desire and anger, then he is a yogi and is happy in this world. So by superior Krishna consciousness, we're able to do that, and we follow Krishna's directions, what he wants us to do. If we ask him at least, what would you like me to do under these circumstances? How should I see things, first of all? And what would you like me to do when I can understand things properly? Then one can become absorbed in Krishna consciousness, become a yogi, and he'll be happy in this world. So I'll stop there. Thank you. Any questions? Yes. Yeah, here. It doesn't work? Yeah, someone can translate.
If I understand correctly, we should not follow our senses, emotions. Yeah, so it's hurting us. So I can hardly understand that.
What's that?
That if we follow our emotion, that hurt us. Yeah.
Čeprav razumem, naj ne bi sledili čustvom in nam celo škodujejo, to zelo težko razumem.
So she said that if she has to follow our emotions and that they're harmful for us, and she doesn't understand this. She hardly accepts this.
Well, you follow material emotions, which are arising out of contact with mental speculation. We don't see things properly, then, as Krishna says, Dhyayato Vishayam Pumsam Sangas Teshu Pajayate, Sangas Sanjayate Kama, Kama Krodo Pajayate. If we look around the world and we're not Krishna conscious, then we'll think about how to utilize what is there in the material world that will make me happy, will satisfy my senses. And then we'll become attracted. And the impetus is called lust, to begin with. We call that romance. But actually it's just a different variety, it's just lust. And then when we try to gratify lust, if we gratify it, then we become greedy to get more. We have one ice cream cone, we have one ice cream and it tastes good and we want another one. And then after a while we can't eat any more ice cream, we get frustrated, we become angry. So these are all emotions: lust, greed, anger. And the result is illusion. And the result of illusion is we forget who we actually are, that we're spiritual beings. We think we identify with our false ego, this body. And then we lose any spiritual intelligence we have. And then we continue to act in the modes of material nature to gratify the senses without any thought of self-realization. Well, to get emotions in the spiritual world, that has to be, of course, the idea of I am Krishna's servant and I want to please him, even if we think like that, then that's spiritual emotion. So it's the čustva materialnia. Это duhovne čustva, это. Anything else? You have a question? Yeah. Prashna. Prashanya? Prashna? Prashanya.
I have two questions actually, or maybe three, depends.
What's that?
First one would be, you said that those who know the Shastras and they follow the Shastras, but they don't see Krishna as the Supreme Personality, they are not properly situated. My question is, what about those who see Krishna as the Supreme Personality, but don't know the Shastra or know very little?
You mean who have experienced Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or just know him? They're engaged in devotional service to him?
Who have that faith or that realization that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but they don't know the Shastras.
Do they serve Krishna?
Yes.
Okay. So then they know the Shastra. Because that's what the Shastra says.
It is said that the gopis, they didn't know the Shastras, they didn't study, but they actually considered Krishna and they treated Krishna like the Supreme. So it was said that they were better situated than the Brahmanas who knew the Shastras and they followed.
They also heard from the Brahmins. They knew the gopis also knew Shastra. They knew about the demigods flying airplanes in the sky. They knew about the demigods, because otherwise, why in the gopis' prayers of separation during the day, they mention about the demigods flying their airplanes in the sky. And when they heard the demigods heard the flutes, the sound of Krishna's flute, the tight dresses and the hair loosened. So they knew about the planes flying in the sky. So Prabhupada writes that they knew about They knew more than the common man knows nowadays. They knew Shastra better. Even the cowherd boys, when they went to the Brahmins who were performing yajna, they knew all the different stages of yajna and when was permissible to take food at that particular time. So they were educated more than people nowadays are. But ultimately, because they knew Krishna as the Supreme Personality, they didn't even know Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They simply loved Krishna. Even if they knew he was God, they didn't take it seriously. Just like we hear we're not this body, but we don't take it seriously. So they knew theoretically Krishna is God, but they were in love with him. So that's the highest point. And therefore they were completely absorbed in Krishna consciousness. So they're most illuminated. Just like you may not know everything about the sun, but when the sun comes up, you become illuminated. You see everything in the light of the sun. You may not know all the details of the sun, but in the presence of the sun, everything becomes illuminated. So because they had Krishna in their heart, everything to them was clear to them. Therefore, they loved everyone and everything in relation to Krishna. So that's perfect knowledge. That's the most important knowledge. Who was going to win the lottery 5,000 years from then didn't really matter very much. They didn't have to know that. All they knew is that they were in love with Krishna and they were in love with everyone and everything in relation to Krishna. And therefore they had the most essential knowledge. Something else?
You also mentioned those who know the Shastras but they don't follow it.
Yeah.
Should we listen from such people?
Why not?
Because they are hypocrites.
Well, they may be ignorant.
But if you preach or know and you say that, okay, this should be done like this, and you don't do it, then what does it mean that you are? Isn't that the definition of a hypocrite?
They could be hypocrites. That might be. They may be. Everyone, just like for instance, all of us, we know the Shastra to some degree or another, but we may not follow everything that we know. And therefore, to a certain extent, where our knowledge is not complete. Things aren't revealed to us. Because although we know what to do, but we ourselves may not do it. But if we tell someone to do something, and they do it, then they'll be benefited. So it's like sometimes devotees have blooped. They've left the movement, they don't follow the principles anymore, but they preach to others when they're outside about Krishna, and those people become devotees and make spiritual advancement. So it's, if someone's particularly envious of Krishna and he's trying to deceive us or whatever, that's a different thing. Or if someone is just plainly a hypocrite, they're smoking, we're telling you not to smoke, then you don't listen to them. Or you may not, you might listen to them and don't smoke. They're giving you at least good knowledge. So the idea is to Prabhupada took instructions. Some colonel in the army told him to print hard books, that soft books wouldn't work. So he wasn't in the printing business, but he took it, Prabhupada took it, this is coming from Krishna, and he started to print hard books. Or when he was installing the deities in Amsterdam, the Jagannath deities, and during the ceremony, everything was on television, but it was very poorly arranged. They didn't have the proper setup for the yajna, they didn't have the proper ghee, they didn't have the proper altar for the deities. So Prabhupada was getting more and more disturbed. And although it was on television, Prabhupada started to yell. So when hippie came over and said, peace, shanti, shanti, and Prabhupada calmed down. And he became very peaceful when the ceremony went on. So Prabhupada did take into account, what people said. Even if he didn't think, who are you to tell me what to do? You're just a hippie. No, Prabhupada thought, here's Krishna telling me to calm down a little bit. My audience is not really reacting properly. So let me calm down. Anyhow, it takes some intelligence to know who to follow and how to follow, etc., etc. It's not all black and white that we can just say, well, I saw yesterday that you ate 3 chocolates, and I don't even think they were offered, so whatever you tell me now about prasadam, I'm not going to listen because you're a hypocrite. No, then we might end up secretly eating chocolate ourselves sometime. Because we may be envious of them. Why should you eat chocolate? I can't. Anyhow, the material nature works in strange ways, so we have to be careful. Anything else?
I have one last question. You mentioned acting on sentiment, and I want to, that is not good, obviously, material sentiment. And I want to ask, what about acting on impulse or instinct?
Instinct.
Yes.
We reserve that to the tigers.
Yeah, but sometimes humans do it also.
Instinct, that's called vachavegam, manasakroda vegam. That there are different vachavegam, manasakroda vegam, udaveda. Was it? Vachavegam, manasakroda vegam, jiva vegam, udrapasta vegam, etan vegam, yovishaheta dira, sarvam prithivim apimam prithivim shashisha. So we should know there are pushings, that's called impulse of the senses. Generally, Krishna doesn't push us, the senses push us. Krishna gives us intelligence, how to control the senses, not be pushed by them. So therefore we should try to at least have Krishna within our mind, and then Krishna will take control of our senses, and he'll do everything very nicely. It won't be fanatic or pushing or without any intelligence. It'll be clear what we're doing. Instead of the senses pushing us, Krishna will control the senses for us because we've taken shelter of Krishna. And then he'll do everything very expertly.
So when we act on impulse, it means that we actually lost control of our senses.
We probably forgot Krishna, which means we've lost control of our senses. If we're not Krishna conscious, we've lost control of our senses. They're directing us rather than Krishna directing them. And if we surrender to Krishna, Krishna directs the senses as Rishikesh, then we're aware of Krishna and we're aware of everything as what's going on. So as soon as we forget Krishna, then we're Maya. Krishna Surya, Samahaya, Maya Andakar, Yang Krishna Tamu Maya, Yaha Andakar. The Krishna is like the sun. Wherever Krishna is, there is Krishna Surya, Maya Andakar. Maya is like darkness. Wherever Krishna is, there is illumination, and wherever the Maya is, there is darkness. Is that right?
Yeah, thank you.
Anything else? Qala Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanande.